Good afternoon and welcome into the SPL Phase 2 Week 3 Day 3. Finch and Mifflin are here on the desk, going to be setting you up for the excellent sets that we have coming up here today. Man, so it's kind of hard, I think, not to be excited. We're going to get some big questions answered here today.
Yeah, finally we get to figure out who's going to be at the top of the league, man. I mean, Ghost versus SSG, I've been waiting all phase for this, bro. I can't wait to see it. And it's almost like a fight of not only the two top tier teams, but also a fight of two teams' ideologies. Is it going to be SSG's more late game centric strategy, or is it going to be Ghost's blitz 'em and crank 'em strategy?
So that Ghost Space Station game you just highlighted, that's going to be huge too. But Sanguine and the Knights, I think, are the two teams kind of battling for that fourth place spot, right? It seems pretty clear to us that SSG, Radiant, and Ghost are up there at the top, untouched with their current undefeated record. So this will also be a chance to see later on with that second set who's going to be that team that's right there behind them, best poised to try and claim one of those top spots. So there is a lot for us to see today, but I think, Miff, you've obviously already hit on the most important part, which is this very first set here, man. Ghost and Space Station. And in particular, Space Station, I want to ask you about this squad because for me, I think they've got the high-end potential to be the best team week in and week out, but I feel like we see maybe just a little bit more variance from them than we do from Ghost. Is that your read on this squad, or do you think SSG is just the best?
I think that SSG have the potential to be the undisputable best, but it really comes down to some of the personalities on that squad just aren't really in it to grind it out. I'm looking at you, Raffer. I know you're out there playing World of Warcraft or whatever you're doing, but I think that also plays into it. When they're not really honed in, it's kind of impressive that they're able to maintain this top of the leaderboard spot. And if they do take a loss to Ghost here, I mean, if anything, it's only going to make them stronger and make them want to practice a little bit more. I think that they certainly have some of the best top end in the league. It is just exactly as you said, some of that variance really does come into play.
And they're one of those teams that I would not want to be on the back end of after a loss. Once this team was like, okay, maybe we turn on the Jets, then you had best get out of the way. And in particular for me, Dardes, I think, is sort of the crux of this, Mifflin. In the middle lane, he's so versatile. He's a meta setter, and I mean that writ large across the entire league, not just in the mid lane role itself. I mean, even back when he was playing support, everyone was saying this guy should be the carry. Clearly, he's the spearhead of this team.
Mechanical prowess, deep god pool. I mean, my man's picking things that no one else is thinking to, and when other players try to replicate it, they can't do it the exact same. I mean, Aphrodite and mid, sure, you can make your memes about Aphrodite in general, but I would argue that no one has played it nearly as well or seen nearly as much success on that pick as Dardes. He's almost single-handedly forced other teams to recognize his Aphrodite and force it out in the first phase of bans. I mean, this dude's an absolute monster.
He is, and that means that Captain Twig, the mid laner for Ghost, has a really tough job on his hands. I mean, when they first made this adjustment, I would have said maybe Twig was part of the weaknesses here for the squad, but I think he's absolutely proved me wrong in that regard. He's gotten much more consistent. He's really honed in his mid lane positioning as well, and he's not making those same mistakes. And he still has, I think, some of that jungler high end. He'll play some hyper carries. He'll play some of those gods that will just beat you down if you give them a lead. I think that Twig has made it into the conversation of top mid laners.
You know, I think you really nailed something here because recently I would say, and from these clips as well, Twig looks best on this Hebo pick, and it might be just a little bit of that carryover from his days in the jungle. This dude is looking a lot stronger. I think he really benefits from these gods that do really have that assassin-esque playstyle, because earlier on in the phase when we saw him playing gods like Raijin and things like that, it seems like he's always trying to get involved. He's always trying to jump in, try and be in that fray, and that really, yeah, that's a jungler in his heart. You can take him out of the jungle, you can't take the jungle out of him, but now that he's starting to find some gods that really facilitate his playstyle, he is certainly looking a lot stronger.
I agree with you 100%. Twig has really found his groove, I think, in the mid lane, and other mid laners need to be afraid. But you don't just have to take it from us. We actually got a chance to talk to Captain Twig himself in the interview earlier today.
I'm here with Captain Twig, mid laner for Ghost, and you know, you guys have been doing really well. You're 4-0, but so is Space Station Gaming, and we've been talking about it a lot on the desk, but they've got a very different style to what Ghost brings into the game. So I'm just wondering, you know, you're coming into this set, how exactly do you try to tackle a team like them?
Well, we just look at what they do really well, and maybe ban it. stuff like maybe Afro, just like the way they play as a team, as a 5-man unit, is really solid, and that's all we really have to look at, and then look at our strengths and basically pick and ban around what we do really well.
Yeah. And, I mean, you guys obviously do a lot really well. That's one of the things we've gotten to see throughout. Phase 2, I think, specifically, has been the most highlighted, but all year you've been able to do a lot. But even though it didn't affect you much during the nights, there was that kind of conversation around the fact that Panda Captain wasn't able to be around as much this last week, so scrims weren't necessarily able to pop the way that they normally do. And, again, it didn't hurt you too badly against the Knights. Do you think that's going to affect much here against Space Station?
I think it might. I think against Knights we had just a really good day, and Knights happened to have a really bad day. I wouldn't read into not scrimming too much, and I would I'd say we're definitely going to have it more rough against SSG without that practice.
Well, based on what you had said, at least for the first question, though, it seems like you guys have still done your homework, right? You had mentioned the Aphrodite, and that kind of brings me to the fact that you're going up against Dardes, who brought out Chang'e when they played against the Renegades. You had mentioned the Aphrodite. Hera, isn't in the game right now, but he has this really different god pool that he brings into the game. So for you specifically, how do you want to, take him on in mid lane?
He's a very unique mid laner. I'd say this week I'd definitely played against the top 2 mids, Paul and Dardes. And what Dardes brings to the table, he plays ADCs very well, probably better than any other mid. And he also just has his flavor picks like Chang'e, Aphrodite, Hera. So you basically try not to have a super losing 1v1, but he doesn't really play for the 1v1. You just have to play a better team game than him, basically.
It's all about how you can, I guess, just survive and live from the back line, and hopefully he doesn't do that while your team, jumps in on him. Either way, it sounds like you've got a pretty good grip on this mid lane matchup and what you guys need to do, so I'm excited to see how Ghost is going to be able to tackle it. So thanks for your time, man, and good luck in your games.
Thank you.
Sounds like Twig has recognized that he's going to have a bit of a tough week here this time. Playing up against Paul and Dardes is by no means an easy draw. But it also sounds like he agrees that a lot of this could be determined by those picks and bans, so you might as well start getting to those as soon as possible here. Myth, because they said you might want to ban the Aphrodite, right? You want to break up the way that they play as a team. But how do you go about doing that in the picks and ban phase when you don't know what it is that this team is going to be playing all the time? I mean, you can try and ban some of the gods with big team fighting presence, but I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Yeah, game one's got to be that data assembly phase for Ghost if they're really looking to target out some of these bans. See which version of SSG are going to show up today. I think as the meta stands with all these top picks really starting to shine through, Magical Hunters, Cthulhu, Amaterasu, Yamoja, it's so hard to find these off-meta target bans, especially if you're going to dedicate something like a Hera ban or a Chang'e ban. You're losing out on a lot of value, and it might open up SSG to a pick that will completely shake up their draft. I think game one especially, you just got to keep an eye on what they're trying to play and hope that you can get ahead of it before it happens.
Going to have to be the case, is maybe try and minimize the loss in the first one so you know exactly what is going to be in store later on. So far, though, these bans make a ton of sense to me. The Hercules and the Olaron banned by SSG, the Freya and the Aphrodite banned away here by Ghost. So that still leaves, I think, a big question in solo, because we're dealing with two of the best solo laners in the world, and Nika and Fine. Okay, do Ama and Cthulhu both make it through, and who ends up with what in regard to those picks too, as the Yamoja is banned away from PDM?
Man, I would be astounded if Cthulhu makes it through. Amaterasu ban leaving Cthulhu available. I would say Ama might be the only soul laner that could even stand a chance against Cthulhu in that lane. And banning it away yourself, as you just said, means that you're not getting either one. You're going to have to fall back to something else. But let's see. Have we seen SSG really rock out with this Cthulhu just yet? I'm not sure that we have.
It's true, SSG might not even want to take it, so now they're left with a bit of a difficult decision, because then they don't exactly know where Ghost is going on the other side. So the Persephone, which has also not been banned, will be left up, and this is scary. As good as Dardes is at things like Odd Her, some of these other weirder picks, the Aphrodite come to mind, stuff that not everyone else is playing, he's just as good at Persephone, which is everyone is playing, because it's probably the best straight-up mid-lane mage in the game right now. This is scary for Ghost, giving a pick like this over to Dardes.
It is. Hebo getting picked up first is a fantastic flex pick. Could go towards Captain Twig and mid, could go towards the jungler. I mean, now that you have this one, what do you match it up with? I would be surprised if Cthulhu makes it through another phase of picks here, but instead another top pick hunter is going to get locked in. It's going to be the Cupid, and that's still a flex pick. This Hebo could very easily go jungle with Cupid mid or Cupid into the long lane. Ghost is keeping SSG on their toes.
I like this, though. Cupid gives them some team fighting presence, regardless of which one of those roles it ends up, which we already said is going to be huge up against Spacestation, who we know make a really strong 5v5. And you have this hop wall for hyper carry potential. If this does go to Twig, it's exactly what we identified as best play style. And look at this. SSG do come back around here to this Cthulhu. So this is scary if you're Ghost now. You've given up the Persephone and the Cthulhu over to Spacestation. Hop wall and Cupid are certainly strong picks. I just don't think either one of them outvalue the Persephone or the Cthulhu.
Man, I mean, I can't argue with you there, man. Persephone with a team fight lockdown inside the ultimate. Cthulhu with the exact same, but also the added benefit of damage mitigation and team-wide healing. Match it up with a Robin, who's going to be able to make up for some of Persephone's weaker early game phase. It's very strong. It seems like both teams are locking in just top picks across the board. Ghost finish out their toss 3 with Nemesis. I mean, this is a strong draft just all around.
And this should make things a little bit clearer in the draft as well, right? Now we should have a pretty good idea that the Hobwa is going mid for Twig, since we know that the Nemesis will be going over to Sam in the jungle. This is interesting. Sam has obviously looked really good on the Nemesis, but his Thor play has really impressed me as of late too. But I think they're really going to value this Nemesis into this composition. How do you like it when you're a jungle Nemesis trying to take down Persephone or Cthulhu or trying to deal with this Robin?
Individual matchup inside of mid lane, Nemesis has a pretty alright time closing distance onto Persephone. I'm more concerned about how well is their 3v3 going to gel out for Ghost. Hebo's a little bit more late game centric, Nemesis as well. It depends on what the support comes through here for Ghost Gaming to really round them out. I'm expecting Mike to play something aggressive, but as of right now, Persephone and Robin should just be winning out in the early game against Ghost 3v3.
Well, looks like Ghost are confident this Cthulhu is going to be going over towards Nika here in Mifflin, because Ghost are banning away 2 support role Guardians. Sometimes these Guardian bans can flex solo, but I'm thinking if you're banning Kuzenbo and Capri, that's an eye towards Raffer and not letting him have his God pool. Meanwhile, Space Station, I think, have correctly realized that the solo lane pool is shrinking a bit, so they're trying to take away the Vomit and some of those options, but Achilles is still left open for Fine. How do you feel about Achilles' strength right now? We really don't see much of him anymore.
I think Achilles, in particular, is just a counter pick right now. You want to deal with him if there's a Capri on any team or a Cthulhu. With this massive damage-mitigated target, once he goes into that ultimate, is going to be just absolutely running amok in your team fight. Normally, we even see Cthulhu's not even get into that ultimate until they're around 50% health. If they could just focus him a little bit, and a huge target like Cthulhu should be easy to hit with Ghost Draft, Achilles can immediately get in there, finish him up with the execute, remove that huge team fight ultimate, and absolutely win a team fight. And I think that really is the strategy they're running for.
Looks like both of these supports are waiting till the end of the draft to decide. It's the Ganesh for Raffer, and now we get to see what it is that Polar Bear Mike is looking for, unless there's some slim chance he might want an aggressive Achilles support, and we're still waiting on what Fine will take. But it looks like with this Geb coming through that we see that Ghost, I don't know, might be leaning a little bit more towards this mid to late. What's your read on this Ghost draft, Myth, now that you got to see the whole thing kind of come together?
Man, it's a strong draft, but it doesn't scream Ghost's identity to me. It seems like they're trying to play SSG at their own game and beat them at it, which is a strong strategy in of itself if you've been studying up on SSG, which you know Ghost has been. I like their draft. It makes sense. Cthulhu's going to go in, use the ultimate. Nemesis drops her ultimate. Immediately, Achilles and Hebo are going to try and move up and finish off that kill, and from there, they should be able to win out on the team fight as long as they can close the gap to Persephone. I like SSG's draft. I mean, everything I just said is just what Ghost is trying to do to mitigate the strength of Cthulhu, of Robin. Robin's going to be diving this backline incredibly easily. He's got a very strong matchup in a Hebo. It's going to be a hard-fought game for both ends.
It is, but Space Station controls so much space. Obviously, Cthulhu, the Grasp of Death from Persephone, the Dharmic Pillars from Ganesh. This is gonna be a battle. Let's go ahead and move down. Space Station versus Ghost for game number 1.
It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to break this tie, at least one of the ties, up at the top of the SPL here in Season 7. I believe I voted Ghost this week. Aggro with me on the call. I think you went Ghost this week as well. You in the chat now, you can tell us who you're feeling in this big matchup. No glaring issues in the draft. I think aggro coming into game number 1, you love to see it. 2 behemoths on a level playing field.
Man, such an interesting drafting phase, isn't it? And so crazy. 2 things really stood out to me. Number 1, Spacestation had the opportunity to get Persephone, Cthulhu, Nemesis as their top 3, which are considered the 3 best in their roles right now. But the way that Ghost played it on the second phase, the second half of the draft, or the second pick, I should say, drafting Hebo Cupid, 2 explicit Nemesis counters, it de-incentivizes Spacestation from going that pick. That forces them to kind of go Cthulhu because they don't want to give that up. It's very strong. But then that means that Ghost get the Nemesis pick that you want against the Cthulhu when Spacestation had that option. So just really, really interesting. And then the last pick, Geb, as I think Finch and Mifflin did a fantastic job on the desk. Very anti-synergy to the playstyle Ghost usually wants. But I think it is good against Spacestation's draft. I think that Ghost has enough early game pressure elsewhere that they won't be lacking too heavily in that department. And don't forget, even though PBM's really been known for the Hercules and that kind of stuff as of late, when he first came into the SPL, Dave, I know this before your time, he was a Geb 1 trick back in those days. It was Geb and Athena every game for this guy. So this is a pick that, even though he hasn't played it recently, he is definitely comfortable on.
Well, PBM has reached level 2. Now Raffer has followed up, but it was about a wave and a half before Raffer did on this Geb. It will be interesting, I think, to follow along with PBM throughout this early game and see how his playstyle adapts to, and really Ghost as a whole, to maybe not having quite as much pressure rooting out from this long lane. I think Raffer probably happy as well. I mean, Ganesh, you maybe argue a somewhat weak level 2, so being able to get to that level 3 somewhat safely is probably strong there for them. Action in the mid lane, though. Sanford Soccer has made his way over to Cherio. Oh, the knockup! Almost enough from Captain Twig. Cherio stays alive. How many times have we seen this aggro, though, this weekend? SCC, even in the SPL, the early level 2, level 3 rotation from the junglers into the mid lane, setting up for kills.
And pretty much every single time it's been Ghost that's doing it. I don't think anyone is as scary as Twig and Sam are right now in that mid 2v2. And that's a great example for players at home as to why you pre-pop your health pot. Because Cherio had one ticking, I think it saved his life right there in that 2v2. Just getting that 10 health every second to try and get back into the green, basically, was the difference between First Blood and Cherio getting his back off in time.
And I do think we have to talk about solo lane here as well. Fino K versus Nika. I mean, what a matchup that is going to be throughout this set. But even outside of the players themselves, Cthulhu up against this Achilles. I think we were surprised that when we saw Ghost ban out that Amaterasu, it's been the 1v1 solo lane matchup through and through. Cthulhu on one side, Amaterasu on the other. Ghost Gaming, despite knowing they're going to let this Cthulhu through, remember they passed on him with their first 2 picks. Then go Achilles a little bit later on. If anyone's going to be able to play it, I'm sure it's fine. Okay. What do you make of that matchup there in the solo lane?
It's interesting. I think that we're starting to see teams, as per usual, with new God releases, start to experiment on what they're going to be able to use and what type of strategy. It's not really God-specific, I don't think. I think that the better way to think about solo lane matchups is what's the goal of my character? You know, what is the overall ideal situation for my character in which they can succeed? And so initially it was Amaterasu, who's just the strongest scaling warrior. And so it was, let's just try and outscale this Cthulhu and bring that same level of teamfight presence, which can be successful because Ama's really strong in and of itself. But we're starting to see a slightly different strategy now. We saw it from E-United yesterday, where they pick Osiris instead of something like the Amaterasu, and so they try and just get as much pressure and kill potential as possible on that solo lane side of the map to set up for potential ganks, or to make it so that your backline on Space Station is so far behind, so zoned, and so low because of these pressure picks out of solo that they won't be able to help the Cthulhu dive properly. So it seems like Ghost is subscribing to the more pressure idea. I think that it's too small of a sample size to say if it's more successful, but I think it's an interesting strategy for sure.
Well, Sam hovering over here around the short lane. Nika already a 1-level lead for Final K here in this lane. Sam is going to actually blink forward, and
Wow.
this one very telegraphed from Sam. Nika saw that from a mile away. Looked for maybe a kill. Small engagement, nothing else. Puts pressure on the Cthulhu. Nika ultimate now down. PBM rotating over as well. Looks like maybe a blue buff invade as the SSG buff has respawn. Cherio spots him off to the side. Stunned down from
Got
Nika.
dash.
PBM knock up. See you later, Nika. PBM strikes first. Ghost Gaming find themselves on the board. Cherio able to clean up the blue buff, but it's Ghost Gaming striking for first blood.
Just a sick Cataclysm there from Mike. He catches the dash from Nika, and it's really easy to actually catch that dash, and you can always tell whether or not you've gotten it by those blood trails that kind of go on off the sides of that rush. If you see those, the ability's on cooldown. And so as soon as that happens, Nika tries to step in, help Cherry get his blue, make sure he's getting that golden experience at the same time, and Ghost had just laid the trap perfectly in that little corridor. So a little bit telegraphed, as you mentioned, but at the end of the day, they still get first blood on that Cthulhu.
Yeah, the initial gank from Sam is maybe telegraphed, but it burned the ultimate, burned a good bit of the health, and then the follow-up from PBM, so certainly calculated from Ghost Gaming. Raffer drops down the Dharmic Pillars, up, down from Cherio. Persephone has tossed out the ultimate as well. Sam quite low beneath the tier 1 tower. He goes. PBM rolling, maybe back through. Lots of ultimates burnt. Ghost Gaming a little bit worse for wear, but no kills on the board.
Yeah, this is Mike's perspective on this Cataclysm, just barely able to get that startup frame. And Nika's likely dead even if he has dash at that position, just because the mobility between Achilles and Nemesis probably would have caught him, but it may have opened up a potential return kill from Cherio in that position. Just really, really perfect timing. Sometimes it's better to be a little bit lucky than good. I think that's the perfect mix right there for PBM.
And I think this is a great start for Mike, and where the conversation going into this matchup was, can this Geb find that same level of early pressure as, you know, the Emojis, the Hercules, you know, maybe in lane right off the bat? No, but now we're starting to see where these rotations, the Cataclysms, the setup from the rest of the team being followed up by Mike is paying off in dividends so far for Ghost.
I mean, he's level 7, Raffer only level 5. That's a pretty massive difference right now. And you see that Mike is taking farm from mid and jungle. They're a little bit behind in comparison, but it's pretty impactful still.
Once more onto Nika, who goes big here. Sam, Final K collapsing in, the execute there. Double stun, Cherio, goodbye. Double kill for Final K. Raffer beneath the tier 2 tower. Nowhere is safe if you're on the right-hand side of the jungle for SSG. The 3-man comes up big once again.
Man, SSG probably breathing a sigh of relief. Oh man, PBM picked Gev. They're going to try and take us to late game. We're going to outscale them, all that kind of stuff. No. It's Ghost Gaming still, baby. They are jamming your jungle over and over and over again. And I think that this is the missing piece to what E United was doing yesterday up against this Cthulhu. I highlighted that Osiris pick, and I think that that idea is very intelligent. At the end of the day, Cthulhu is still a guardian. He's still not that strong early on. You can still kill him, especially with this Nemesis in tow. It's just that E United kind of took the first step. They picked the pressure solo laner, and then the next shoe never came. They didn't come in and collect on that pressure that they were getting. Every blue buff, Ghost has been here so far, and you're using just this early kill potential from Nika and from Sam in order to set it up perfectly. I love the way that Ghost is playing this right side of the map.
100% kill participation, Fino, Sam, Mike. It's been all those three all day for Ghost Gaming here. That has left Vote and Panda Cat somewhat alone over in the long lane, where Vote had maybe about a half-level lead over Panda up until maybe one wave ago here. You start to look at what we've seen, I think, out of Cupid and out of Heimdall into the late game here as of late as well. So, you know, I don't think Ghost Gaming all that worried about maybe an early lead for Vote, though you do have to be cautious of this Heimdall and the scaling that he brings.
Definitely, but at the same time, Cupid has been really, really successful when it comes to late game team fighting anyways, so I don't think that's a major concern here for Ghost.
We're doing this again, over by the blue buff, but this time SSG have brought reinforcements. Mike looking for the Cataclysm. Overhead kick from Cherio. Will CC immune that one. Dharmic Pillars down. Fino K dashes away. Dardes here as well. Drops down the ultimate. Four-man fight. Rapper has to use the dash. Execute for Fino. Ready, and it connects. Rapper down for the first time this game. Ghost Gaming maybe continue the onslaught, but down from Cherio finds a good bit of damage. Fino not rooted down, but Nika Still on the chase here. Sanford Soccer lurking around the corner. Fino, a little bit of healing is going to get him out safely. Nika not able to follow up with the ultimate. 1 for none this time around, but a good fight back from SSG.
Darda is still plenty strong, pretty low on mana, but enough to get some skills off at this position. That was almost a nasty execute from Fino K. I don't know if Cherry got the overhead kickoff right there, but I thought that was going to be another execute for Fino K, who's just playing lights out so far on this Achilles, but Cherry's able to escape after a very rough initial engagement from Cherry, kind of whiffed the whole kit out of the window on Sam after those dashes were down. Then he found a massive Mystic Rush, and hitting a multi-man Mystic Rush is so valuable, not just because it does a lot of damage, but also you can't forget about that secondary effect of the ultimate. You make those targets take increased damage. It's a mini Sunder on multiple members in that situation.
Look at this aggro. Gold Fury started up by SSG. They're even going to spend the Dharmic Pillars on it. It is only Mike immediately here. Sanford Soccer around the side. Damage just mistimed. SSG not pushed away by Ghost Gaming, but now the chase is on. Water Hands from Twigs connect for a little damage onto Cherio. The knockback. Cataclysm knock up. Talk about that volley, and it's a double kill rotation for Captain Twig. Dardes pokes a little damage from the passive. Ghost Gaming, they lose the Gold Fury, but pick up 2 kills.
And that's where Persephone might not be as good as some other mages in the exact same scenario. I know everyone feels like Persephone's just the best all the time, but in objective DPS scenarios, she's a little bit awkward because you want to set up these massive gardens, you want to be able to secure with a big flower explosion, but that means you aren't really doing that much. You can't even auto-attack while you're setting up that garden at the same time. Bone Rush isn't exactly the low cooldown spam ability that you want in order to kill an objective quickly, and I think that's that duration that it took Spacestation to kill that Gold Fury. Merlin's the opposite end of the spectrum, but if that's a Poseidon or something like that, something else that's pretty decent on objectives, I don't think Twig can get there in time to clean that fight up.
It's a battle of seconds here, and a battle over in the long lane is Panda Cat stunned down. Vote will pick up a kill. Finally, SSG on the board. Cherio there for the assist as well. So maybe a moment here where SSG can finally start to pull an advantage somewhere on the map. Vote and Panda Cat largely equal throughout the first 12 minutes of the game. But an early rotation from Cherio will set up a kill for Vote.
Love that play from Vote, too. Just using that Heimdall kit to the full effectiveness. You can place a crystal max distance behind your opponent and then place one right at your feet, and you'll instantly short port straight behind them and cut off their escape route before they can actually use their escape. That made sure that Panda had nowhere to go but to the grave in that situation. I love the way Vote played that.
I guess it makes some sense. I mean, everything kind of mid lane and over is going the way of Ghost Gaming here at the moment, so send Cherio over to the place where there's at least an equal matchup for you. 12 minutes, 45 seconds into the game. Cherio has done a good job. Sanford Soccer affected all 6 of Ghost Gaming kills so far. 0-0-6 for the Nemesis, but a 1-level lead for Cherio out of the jungle. It's kind of that kills versus farming conversation where Sam has made his rotations count, but Cherio has made his time count elsewhere on the map.
And don't forget that even though Ghost is getting these invades successfully a lot of the time, the golden experience that Sam is getting from that is reduced not only because he has to share a bunch, but because it's on the enemy side of the map. Speaking of being on the enemy side of the map, Raffer, this is not where you're allowed to be.
And it is the one-man Dharmic Pillars will keep Mike rooted in there. Knock up from Captain Twig connects here. Fino K maybe has to use the ultimate. He sure does, but the solo laner makes his way to the other side of the map for the 4th kill of the game so far. This Achilles is starting to get out of hand very quickly.
And this is still a pick. I mean, it's not as dominant as it once was, thank goodness, because Achilles was pretty nasty for a long period of time. But when he gets leads like this, man, you still feel like he does way more damage than he has any right to do. He can take more damage than he has any right to take. It's all because of the 2, man. Achilles 2 is in the conversation for best abilities in all of Smite, because it just is everything. It gives him tankiness. It gives him percent power. We don't do that, dude. Like, percent power, you just get one shot by this thing. You get percent protections. You get CCR, and he's going to be healing every time you hit. Radiant Glory, easily one of the best abilities in all of Smite, if you ask me. And it just gets better whenever you're this far ahead. It can be a catch-up mechanic for you when you're behind, but when you're ahead, getting percent power is just absolutely bonkers.
Piloted by one of the best solo lane players in all of SMITE. Good look at the net worth chart, though, for kind of continuing that Cthulhu Achilles conversation. Near the bottom, beneath PBM, maybe not all that surprising, PBM has made his way all the way around the map. Nika, 7.6k in the gold department, about 1.2k behind his counterpart over there on the solo lane. Continues to sort of show the Ghost mindset on this one. If you can punish, you can get this Cthulhu behind, it's going to take him longer to get involved in this game, and that aggro, I think, is really the conversation we've had around Cthulhu support versus solo. You put him in the solo lane to avoid this scenario.
That's a great point. He's basically Cthulhu support right now. It's not feeling too good for you. I'm not too surprised at the difference between Fine and Nika. Look at the difference between PBM and Raffer, though. I mean, 2.5 levels for Mike. He's up individually 1,300 gold by himself over Raffer, and you look at Geb as a scaling pick. We are way past Geb's weak part of the game, man. He is going to be really, really hard to kill.
Oh no, Raffer's going to be easy to kill, though, maybe for the 4th time the game. Fine, okay, kill given over to him. Fury taken down as well. 1 apiece now for Ghost and SSG. At least for the moment, you know, Raffer's got 2 levels to build up to that 2nd active, so levels gold-wise absolutely there for PBM, but actives as well. Vote still does a great bit of damage, but not when Sam is here to play as well. Panda Cat final shot. PBM, the insurance policy rollout on the back end, snags him 1 more assist there as well. Twig now sees Cheerio crushing wave from half HP. Come on. Cheerio dead for the next 30 seconds. Ghost Gaming starting to run away with this one.
And Dardes is in a lot of trouble here. He needs support from Nika, but he might need even more than that, because here comes Mike to try and slow him down.
Oh, Twig is chunking right now. Sam, the freest auto attack of his life on the back end of it. Now Nika just gets collapsed upon. Frenzy used by Mike there on the back end of it. 6-0-2 for Fine OK out of the solo lane. And this is a 17-minute Fire Giant call aggro. Only Raffer left alive. No chance for anyone on SSG to take this one away. Ghost Gaming are ballooning this lead from the get-go.
It's just so interesting to watch Ghost play, because they make it look so easy, don't they? I mean,
They do.
You watch them play, and you think, well, why doesn't everyone just play like this? You know, like why doesn't everybody just pick pressure and consistently sit on the enemy blue buff? And it's not that everyone else is stupid. It's not that they don't get it. It's that teams are really good at not letting this happen to them against every other team except for Ghost. And it's really just a testament to the way that they play the game and the way that they execute, man. Because Spacestation Gaming, I think, is one of the most creative teams. I think they are one of the best teams in the SPL, no doubt about it. I'm always impressed watching them play, and they're just getting absolutely trounced in this one. They're down 9K at 17 minutes. It's absurd. It's absurd. I don't know how else to describe the Ghost Gaming trajectory right now. I mean, don't forget, they started off phase 1. They had that loss to United. Oh, you know, how are they gonna work?
That's right, that was the story for so long.
Right, because we had nothing else to talk about because they were just winning every game, and we've got to find something to talk about. Then phase 1 happens. You know, we get into the playoffs. Twig banned for the beginning of that. How are they going to transition back from Baskin? Oh, you know, the downgrade back to Twig. Yeah, right, dude. He's been playing out of his mind basically all split in just all year in the mid lane. He's up 3 levels on Dardes, playing the scariest mage in the whole game. Like, what do you say about this Ghost team anymore, man? I think that they are, right now, until proven otherwise, really far ahead of the rest of the pack. I just can't wait for their matchup against Radiance to see if Radiance could get some revenge, because right now, certainly not over in this set.
Right.
But right now, the other undefeated team alongside themselves and Radiance is kind of getting mollywopped.
Yeah, the set's sure not over, but the game looking maybe quite the opposite. 11k gold lead as the tier 2 in left and tier 2 in mid have both been taken down. Fire Giant buff still another minute and 50 seconds for Ghost Gaming here. Not often we're watching this camera perspective from 20 minutes in. One team really closing in on that level 20 mark. Raffer just getting himself to level 12, 4 levels behind PBM on the other side. It's a mid lane tower, or Phoenix dive rather, Frenzy used. Sam drops down the ultimate over onto Nika. PBM locked in by Dardez there, but plenty tanky enough as the level 16 Geb. He will roll himself away thanks to Captain Twig. With all things considered, this is, Finch likes to word this is the simplest the game has been for SSG. We got one lane to take these fights in depending on how Ghost split up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now without that Nemesis ultimate, it does take some pressure off of Nika in particular, but look at this build that Sam's gone for. He's gone crit. Not a lot of pen. It's really just that Wind Demon 10% pen now, but you only get that once you crit, so it won't affect the ultimate at all.
Double Cataclysm for Mike as he blinks himself forward. Rapper does not have Dharmic Killers to return a good bit of damage there. Cherio's found his way into the backline, but FineOK is doing the same on the opposite side of the fight. Boat sends him on a trip to Niflheim as Captain Twig will get rid of the Heimdall on the back end of it anyway. It's a dash right back from FineOK. Cherio will collapse in onto him, but look at the shielding. Can he turn this one around? FineOK may be able to stay alive, but Dardez gets the kill. Left side Phoenix does finally go down. Sam may be looking for a little bit more, but Ghost Gaming, they lose one, get one, take the Phoenix, and back themselves off.
And they don't have very much left on this Fire Giant either, so that was really the last wave that they had to play with. So they cut it a little bit close on that Phoenix Siege, but ultimately they get there against a very difficult team composition to siege against. I mean, Cthulhu, one of the best on defense in the entire game. Persephone right there with him. And Heimdall as well, who can really stay pretty safe and just consistently slow that whole Phoenix zone that you're walking in. Those slow ticks can be pretty annoying to deal with. So Ghost still able to break it without using Captain Twig's ultimate. I think Twig was really itching to use it at the very end there, but got called back a little bit. I'm noticing a pretty distinct lack of penetration here for Ghost's builds, and if this game goes on, if Space Station can somehow steal a fire, install the game out, it does give SSG a small window where normally, Mifflin says it a lot, I completely agree with him, the idea that when you're behind, building defense is kind of worthless because you'll never get tanky enough to withstand the damage of the team that's scaling faster than you. In this situation, maybe that can work.
Oh, Cherio needs some defense.
Okay.
Oh my
Sure,
god.
man.
Captain Twig, 505. Yeah, Tahuti, Soul Gem, E-Staff, and Obsharp will do that to you, I guess. Goodbye, Cherio. And now it is a 5v4 on the defense. PBM has found two again.
Okay.
Sam for Soccer deletes Dardez. Rapper back to the gray screen. Vote is able to turn back one, but Captain Twig rolls out the red carpet. A double kill for Panda Cat. Ghost Gaming in 22 minutes obliterate Space Station Gaming in game number 1.
Man, it was not close. Not even for a second did that one feel close at all for Ghost. In 22 minutes, man. I mean, you hear Captain Twig in his pregame interviews say, listen, we came in pretty hot, PK came in pretty cold. I'm sure we'll have a tougher time up against Space Station. Maybe. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
It looked awfully similar to how that PK set looked through one game.
Yeah, a betting man says this one is a little bit closer than that set. I give credit to Mifflin. This is a totally off-the-record, comment we had, but going into this one, he was like, I don't know, man. I think Ghost could blow out SSG, and this is us just kind of talking about the day before going into this matchup. He saw maybe some writing on the wall there, and at least in game number 1, not even close. Not in any capacity, not in any direction you look at it. In aggro, it's all built off the right-hand side pressure early from PBM, Sam, and FineOK. Things just spiral out of control in this one. Ghost Gaming, flawless. Don't get to say that often. Flawless in game number 1. Take the lead over SSG. We'll go back to the desk to break this one down.
Yeah, I'm still recovering. Whoa, what was that? We thought this was going to be our big, super close set between the two top teams in the league, and instead Ghosts run over them, not even in 23 minutes. And as Aggro said at the end, Myth, it was never particularly close. And it's not just they won this game as quickly, it's the draft they did it with. How often does Geb get that kind of early game value? I've almost never seen it happen to that point. This was the Cthulhu killing comp, and they absolutely made it work.
And they executed on it perfectly. I would say that every single piece that SSG got might have been best in class. I mean, they got Persephone, Cthulhu, all these strong picks, and it was all allowed to them. Ghost had a strategy for it. Let's go over to Soul Lane. We'll put an Achilles over there, maybe drop a Nemesis. You execute the Cthulhu, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. Oh, now we're all ahead. Let's win everywhere on the map. I mean, Ghost just played better here, but we said it right before that game. this game one is data collection. Now, SSG have the information. They need to adjust and play around what Ghosts are going for. I mean, how that played out, Ghosts might just let you have every single one of those picks again, but they really shouldn't take it. I mean, clearly, Ghosts had a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, this is how it started as it meant to go on right here, Mifflin. I mean, all this pressure on the right-hand side of the map. And remember, Captain Twig said, you know, we didn't get to scrim as much with Panda Cat as he would have liked, so they took all the fighting to the complete opposite side of the map, left Panda Cat alone to do his own thing, and they just won the 3v3, 4v4, however you want to classify it, with Fine OK hitting these nasty executes. The Nemesis ultimate was there, and obviously Mike playing lights out too. I mean, really, they all did. It was an excellent game from Ghost from top to bottom.
Man, I said it here. I've never seen a Geb look more like a Hercules in my life. Mike didn't want to stop, and he didn't ever stop. From minute one, when he got that early lead from the gank off of the solo lane, Rapper rotates in a mid and is playing from behind, says, okay, let's slow it down. I'll try and farm up and try and catch up to what Mike's established here. Mike never slowed down. 1-0-14. I think he was 5 or 6 levels up at some point. I mean, that's the most aggressive Geb play I've ever seen, and it could just work again, man. I mean, Ghost could do whatever they want. No wrong in my eyes.
Yeah, when Mike is level 5 cataclysming you at your tower line, you're asking yourself, how did I get here? Like a bad sitcom intro. It's brutal, man, the way that things went for SSG in this game. But Myth, I think that this is something that they can recover from. Clearly, Ghost came in with a plan to bully the Cthulhu in particular. They were comfortable giving up the Persephone and the Cthulhu as long as they got the Achilles and the Nemesis, so they had that strat to go bully them in the solo lane. Now I think SSG should be able to come into this next game a little bit more heads up. Maybe they don't have to prioritize the Cthulhu right off the bat this time.
I think SSG got to change almost every single piece of their draft, man. Nothing worked out there. The writing was on the wall a little bit, too. We saw that Ghost had the opportunity to take Cthulhu for themselves, but instead prioritized other picks. That should have been a red flag. If you're leaving something that powerful up through that many phases of the picks, I mean, clearly Ghost is trying to debate you into taking it yourself. SSG can't leave that juicy pick on the table for too long, take it, and immediately lose out to this strategy, this Achilles slaying composition that Ghost have lined up. And it just, I mean, beautiful play, beautiful counterplay, beautiful drafting phase. It's not often that you see a game get won rather, before the game even started, but I think you could definitely make an argument that Ghost did it here.
I mean, maybe some red flags went up, but I mean, could you expect it to be that bad? Do you really just pass on Cthulhu in that spot? I don't know, Miff, if I can have gotten to that point before it all happened, at the very least. But with hindsight, things look a little bit clearer. Let's go ahead and get into these picks and bans for game number 2, because now we have this whole new way with which to look at this set, Mifflin, which is that Ghost trounced them in this first game, and now they've got 2 more cracks at them to maintain their undefeated record.
It's going to be hard. And coming into a loss like that this early on in the set, that's mental damage that SSG has sustained here. You don't lose a game in 22 minutes and let it roll off your back. You're going to be, it's in the back of your head. You're thinking about it. You're looking at the guy to your left. You're like, oh, Cherry, how did we lose? Cherry, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough for them to recover from it. And it seems like the ban phase is going largely the same way already. But SSG are going to have to switch some things up. Maybe prioritize that NEM a little bit higher in the draft.
That's going to have to be part of it, I'm thinking so. Something to try and make sure that Ghost can't have that same exact combo that works so well. But they're also in different spots here. Ghosts are in the first pick spot and Spacestation are in second. So I do think these bans and the picks and the order they're all taken is all going to look different, and that should give room for Spacestation to make some adaptation. Because, again, we didn't build this setup for nothing, just for fun. This is, I think, the second best team in the league. Ghost and Spacestation, just across all the time they've been playing, look so head and shoulders above nearly everyone else. Obviously, Radiant's in that same conversation, but these 2 teams are supposed to be the cream of the crop, and I expect Spacestation to give them some trouble here.
Brave of you to assume that they're the second best team already after only the first game of the set, but can I blame you after a 22-minute game like that? I certainly cannot. The ban phase going largely unchanged. Amaterasu coming out from Ghost. I like it. I'm really keeping my eye on that first pick, because what Ghost takes first off is really going to set the pace for the rest of this P's and B's. If they decide to prioritize solo lane again, it's going to tell me that the strategy of ignore Panda Cat lane, play on the other side of the map is going to come through. But you called it out, man. Yamoja, that's infinite pressure. We thought Geb was dominant. I mean, what is he going to do with a god that actually wins out in the early?
Yeah, I mean, he did that with Geb, who I would have thought, see me at 12 minutes and maybe we can talk. But Yamoja, who's ready from minute 1, is certainly a scary prospect. But SSG now have to decide, do they want to go back to the Cthulhu? Cthulhu Nemesis, I think, is a pretty strong answer here, because that does cut out a lot of the problem. Obviously, the execute is still strong from Ghost, but how do you feel about maybe grabbing the Nemesis here right away?
I think it's the best play you can make. You can't let Sam have that god again. He was so absolutely dominant on it. And it's going to remove that counterplay into Cthulhu. Lots of the time we see him going into the ultimate, immediately gets slammed by the Nem ult. Your mitigations are removed, 30% of your health is also gone. But instead it's going to be the Cupid, man. Ghost is taking Nem here. I mean, you can put my money on it.
Certainly they will. I'm a bit surprised here by Spacestation because the Cupid obviously didn't get to have that much impact on the game. They fought pretty far away from it for most of it. So they must just be thinking that they want this Cupid on their side, and they want to see a little bit about what Ghosts are going to do with these next 2 picks. There's the Habois. For some reason, we didn't get much chance to talk about how nasty Twig looked in that game too, but he also was a big part of the problem, so he'll get to reprise that role. And now we do get to see if the Nemesis gets selected here for Sam. I'd be very, very surprised if it didn't, and it is indeed being hovered.
I mean, we've already saw what Nemesis did to Cthulhu. I mean, sure, you could say it was just the effort of the 4-man squad of Ghosts rotating over to solo,
Sure.
but a lot of it was afforded to them just from that defense shred, from that HP shred that Nemesis brings. It's crazy to me that SSG decided to let this through again. The exact same strategy that Ghosts ran last game of, all right, let's run at Cthulhu, is going to work better now because instead of a weak early game god like Geb, they're going to slot in Yamoja, who has an ultimate that's going to throw up some walls that Cthulhu can't get through, long-range stuns, a slow, sustain. I mean, SSG, you're going to have to do something crazy here. And Kuzumbo and Cupid is certainly a pressure lane. Maybe that's the strategy. Drag the pressure to the other side of the map, force Ghost Gaming to respond to it over there. But even then, I mean, the pressure we saw that Ghost already had into Cthulhu, maybe SSG just have to respond there. It's hard to say.
It's going to be difficult for him. SSG looking to ban away the Hades here at this point, so still with a bit of an eye towards Finocan, what he might play. The Jingwei banned away from Ghost. So that's interesting. That's making me think that Ghosts are suspecting this Cupid might be mid or something like that, and I think that makes a lot more sense. I don't think it makes nearly as much sense to this early on take a pick that's going to be over in the left lane, which didn't matter much last game. I think that they might be right to be a little bit worried that something might be coming more mid.
Yeah, I agree. And Cupid in mid is going to have a lot more pressure, and it's got a pretty decent matchup in a Habois. At least force out the beads with the Fields of Love, or maybe even the ultimate. I like the Achilles ban. I mean, that's the best adjustment I could have seen from SSG here so far. Now Cthulhu's not going to nearly struggle as much. With Uller being hovered, it could still be Uller mid. That's still a flex pick, and maybe that's the intention of SSG. We're not really sure where either one of these hunters can go. Cupid and Kuzumbo together is likely a better kill lane than Uller and Kuzumbo, and Uller likely will get more pressure out of mid, but this flex pick is incredibly strong.
It is. For some reason, that Uller is kind of screaming Dardes to me, but it could easily go either direction, Myth. I'm right there with you. So now Ghosts have to decide how they're going to go about this strategy without having the Achilles. I think the just straight-up body Cthulhu plan is going to be much, much more difficult without that execute to help out or to at least clean up some of the other supports that were around. It wasn't always used on the Cthulhu back in Game 1. Now they're picking up the Rom. This makes some sense. Panda Cat plays this pick well. It does allow him to have a little bit of help in the team fights without rotating fully. And now the Cucullin. Okay, interesting. How do you feel about this Cucullin solo here at this point, man?
I mean, if the plan is to bully your lane, you can't do much better than Cucullin. I mean, he's the god of damage. He does damage. It's all he ever is gonna do. It's all he's ever wants to do. He's got a little bit of anti-heal to deal with some of what Cupid's bringing as well, but lock him down, move up, find the ultimate through the Cucullin, get the knock up, follow it up with a Nemesis ult, tank up the tower. It can certainly still work as a kill Cthulhu strategy, but it is certainly much weaker than Achilles would have been into that matchup. I like the draft, though. Ghost Gaming are playing for pressure, and they've got it just about everywhere.
This Cabrakan is interesting to me. I wonder if this is going to go to Cherio in the jungle. We've certainly seen him play Guardians in the jungle before, and I do think the Cabrakan has a good matchup into things like Hebo and the Nemesis in terms of how effective that tectonic shift is, that ultimate for him. How do you feel about the Cabrakan and where it might be going here, Myth?
I think you're right to call out the jungle Cabrakan here, and it's got very strong ganks. His ability to clear out waves is much easier now that Tremor's got a recent adjustment in that last patch, but it's very high variance. If Cabrakan falls behind, he's going to get destroyed. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But as far as 1v1s go, he's got a pretty decent matchup into this Nemesis. He's going to be pretty reliant on items. Likely, we're going to see a Polynomicon come through to help out with that burst just a little bit. Deal with the Nem Shield, because every single one of the Karakin's abilities is essentially a stun. I like it, and it's got a pretty decent matchup into the other parts of this draft. Emoja, Hebois, and Ram all can't escape that cage. But still, I'm worried about how well he's going to be able to scale himself into the mid-game.
It could be trouble for him. It's interesting. Whenever we see Triple Guardian, Double Hunter, there's usually a Fafnir involved, but not this time. Ghost and SSG going to be kicking things off with game number 2.
Things can't get much faster than they were in game number 1 for Ghost Gaming. 22 minutes in game number 1, and Aggro, they draft a lot of what they drafted in game number 1, arguably more early game pressure. PBM piloting the Emoja this time around, PandaCat over on the ROM, and still some lane pressure for FineOK.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of switch up here for Space Station. They stick with the Cthulhu, and then I thought they were going to... I was on Mifflin's page. I thought they were going to go Cthulhu Nem for sure. I think that Space Station was hoping that Ghost wouldn't just go Hebo Nem again. But ultimately, I do think SSG came up with a fantastic counter pick to these selections, which is this Cabrakan for Cherio. It's a pick that he is very, very storied on, has played a ton. It's slow immune, it's knock-up immune in the 1. You love those options in order to make sure that you can actually get on top of these picks. And then the ult blocking people in is going to be fantastic against Nemesis, Rom, Yamoja, Hebo, all of them. So it's really, this game in my mind, it's really resting on Cherio's shoulders. And he had some good moments in game 1, some rough moments in game 1. It's going to have to be a lot more good than bad here in game 2 if SSG want to bounce back.
Yeah, I guess that's the onus that sort of, I won't call it a Hail Mary pick, but a sort of unconventional maybe carries with it. You got to be able to bring your weight. Cherio did his best in game 1, but was largely cut out by a lot of what Ghost Gaming was looking to do. It was this, PBM setting up early fighting, no stun return from Vote this time around. Raffer trying to sidestep cooldowns back up in the nick of time, so he stays alive this time around, but now plenty low for maybe a return setup from PBM.
I think that should have really been a kill. Mike used the Sunder. I didn't see the Sunder effect on Raffer. It makes me think wonder if Mike missed it or if it wore off before the most of that damage was coming through. Either way, it tells me the Sunder probably could have been better utilized in that moment and probably would have resulted in first blood, because Raffer expending the dash in the one-on-one in the jungle against PBM as he was walking back to lane was ambitious, to say the least. Luckily enough for SSG, he didn't get punished for it.
Yeah, I think on the flip side, despite really we've seen this kind of one-sided engagement, 1 out of 1, I guess, was really for Ghost Gaming. Raffer and Vote have the ability to turn around some early pressure of their own as well. This Kuzumbo does plenty of damage. Vote connects with an axe, and suddenly PBM or PandaCat maybe a bit caught out. You wonder, though, Aggro, after what we saw in game number 1, if that changes up Cherio's mindset a little bit more, even Nika's mindset, if you're now maybe hyper-cautious, hyper-aware of this right-hand side of the map, especially around these blue buff timers, or maybe you really come into this game, a lot of teams just say that they focus on their own game plan, they focus on their own play style. I wonder what the mindset is for SSG coming into this one.
Yeah, focusing on your own mindset is all well and good until you get bodied in 22 minutes, and then you've got to try and adjust to what the enemy team is doing to you. So I don't think there's any world in which Space Station is not at least more mentally prepared for consistent blue buff invades once Mike hits level 5. The Sunder is really there to be that extra bit of damage that the Achilles execute was in game number 1. Now it's in the form of the Sunder. I guarantee those are almost certainly heading for Nika. Maybe Cherio if they feel like they can make it work.
Oh my god, where did Captain Twig just go? I missed it. Cherio blinks in, gets the stun. Might be a double over onto Sam as he double dashes away. Talk about early damage, my god. Cherio finds it in spades. Now PBM rotates over. Sam for Soccer here. Red buff invade attempted. Cherio a little extra sustain thanks to the heart bombs. Won't be a full-blown fight, but who locks down the red buff? We'll have to wait and see who ends up going to pick it up. Looks like Ghost maybe confirmed that Twig makes his way over there. But it's the 1 kill now on the board for SSG.
just a bit of greedy positioning there from Twig, trying to poke out Dardez, and Dardez had help coming in the form of Cherio, and you getting a little taste. That Cabrakan damage, he doesn't do less damage as the game goes on. I'll put it that way. It only gets better from here if you're Cherio, and that's really where the Space Station has to play around, is Cherio's blink cooldown, his ult cooldown. How, can we set him up in order to get this ball rolling? And it's an interesting switch up here from Sam that I'm noticing as well, in response, I think, to Cherio's Cabrakan, in going for the more ability-based build. At least he's not going Golden Blade right away, which tells me that he likely will focus more on the abilities moving later into the build. It's just hard to get auto attacks off against Cabrakan with all of his CC, with all of the peel that he has, not even just against him, but against other members of the team. The auto attacks aren't going to be as good. You don't really want to be auto attacking Kuzenbo that often because of the shell spikes. So I think because of the draft, Sam decides to switch it up and starts the pace this time.
A little bit more preemptive on the rotations or SSG this time. Ghost Gaming were leaning towards that solo lane. Dardez and Rapper right in range. PBM uses the River's Rebuke here, catches Dardez in. Off to the side, Tremble there. Crushing wave from Captain Twig won't be used just yet. PBM left alive here. Dardez is as well. Captain Twig, though, showing some early damage from himself to maybe turn around some of these fights.
I think if Mike would have landed that first stun, that might have been a kill, but after missing it, decides to let it go.
He's got the heart bomb on him as well. Won't stun him out this time. There's the Cabrakan ultimate, and Rapper will pop his as well. Down goes Twig for the second time this game. Right side pressure abound in game number 1, and now it is Cherio and Rapper and Dardez running down the mid lane. Captain Twig left worse for wear.
And I love the response from SSG, because the way you beat pressure is with pressure. It's really the only way to beat it in my mind. You don't pick more scaling and just hope that you'll get there, because you won't. You've got to be able to match it. In Space Station, a veteran squad, I think, really understanding what their role is in this game, and that's not to just try and weather the storm. It's to beat it. It's to play Ghost's game and try and beat them at it. And so far, Cherio is 2 for 2 on kill attempts, both on a Twig in the mid lane. And like I said at the very beginning, this game is pretty binary for me. If Cherio does really well, I think that Space Station has a really good chance to win, because he's got the most positive matchups on the map.
I'm curious, though, and you kind of bring up the binary scale. I mean, how much of Cherio's success do you think is binary depending on his blink? Admittedly, I'm not well-versed in Cabrakan in the jungle, so you look at maybe some ability for Ghost Gaming just to sort of walk away from him. Is that like really a realistic fear, based on what Ghost Gaming have drafted and the lack of gap close, I guess, outside of a blink for Cherio?
Yeah, the slow immunity and movement speed from the 1 is strong, but Ghost has a lot of movement as well. I think that it is pretty realistic to be concerned about that, but Cherry, like I said, he's played this pick a million times in competitive. This is a very, very comfortable pick for him, so I think he'll be able to find his spots pretty well as this game goes on.
Look at this. Votus found himself a small advantage over here in the long lane. He thinks it's an advantage, but now Twig has rotated his way through. Snipes down from Panda Cat. Who gets the kill? It is Panda. Ghost Gaming able to answer back with 1, but now PBM left alone in the mid lane, and Dardez picks up the kill there. A return gank for Cherio to the middle of the map. This time PBM left alone, but Ghost Gaming, they want a little bit more. Crushing Wave does not have the damage, but Sam for Soccer sure does. Rapper dashes through. Dardez puts down the heart bomb, detonates down onto Captain Twig. Sam has to run away. 2 for 1 across the board. Maybe 2 for 2 as SSG pull back a couple.
But Dardez just continues to feast right now, man. He's now 2-0-2. Actually went for the Transcendence before the boots, which is pretty rare in mid, because oftentimes you just feel like you need to get to fights as often as you can. But in this situation, it's really benefiting Dardez, because he's dealing a lot more damage than Ghost is ready for on these plays. Mike disrespects the damage from Dardez and Cherry a little bit. He gets punished. Has a wall that I wonder if he could have angled the wall to wall Cherry into the tier 1. Probably not from the direction he was stunned, so Cherry's able to escape. And then Twig's ultimate just being a little bit off means that that's a little bit more DPS that he and Sam need to put into Cherio to make sure they get at least 1, but it leaves Dardez to pretty much free farm them.
You gotta love what you've seen from SSG up to this point. It was all proactivity, 100% proactivity from Ghost Gaming in game number 1, and we are seeing the opposite, granted in a different lane of the map though from SSG, but it is just a return over and over and over again over to this mid lane. Now Captain Twig is going to have to use the ultimate defensively if Cherio comes back again. Blink still up. Big conversation around that one for Cherio out of the jungle. Crushing Wave might have to be used to escape. So it's the ability to take game 1 on the chin, return in here to game 2, and just funnel your pressure into somewhere you know you can make it count. I think admirable and then some here for Space Station.
I mean, it's not easy to mentally bounce back from feeling like you are the best team in the league. I'm sure Space Station felt that way, to then getting absolutely Goomba stomped in game number 1 in 22 minutes. I mean, that's a mental blow for sure. And Space Station, a team that if you listen to their interviews, you know that the mental part of the game can sometimes affect this squad. So I agree. I'm impressed with the way they play.
Mid lane once more, Captain Twig crushing Wave, but maybe in the opposite direction from where he was hoping. Cherio snags the kill. Can Sanford Soccer do the same on the back end of the fight? Trembles not enough. Down goes Dardes. Mid laners MIA for the next 20 or so seconds. Riptide from PBM out back. Fine okay, looking for the knock-up, but only finds one. Nika uses his ultimate there as well. Dash through, Rapper half HP. Cherio drops down the wall to funnel this fight off to the left-hand side of the mid lane. Nika will have some return damage on the back end of it, maybe a knock-up. But right around the backside is Vote here. Doesn't look like he's going to look to go in for all that much more. 1 for 1, both mid laners down.
And that's an awkward situation for both teams because Space Station, so much of their lead is on Dardes. Okay, needs to be careful here. I don't think Cherry has the damage. In fact, it's Cherry who needs to be careful now. No slow immunity back in the kit. And he might find a preemptive end, but Nika's peel is good. Twig still wants it, but won't be able to close the gap. So Twig dying is bad for Ghost because he just needs farm badly. He's down a lot in the mid lane. So just time for him off the map is a negative for Ghost. But at the same time, Sam gets a kill and a shutdown on Dardes. So Sam gets some bonus gold, and you keep Dardes from getting more farm and pulling further ahead. So bit of a small win and a small loss, I'd say, for Ghost on that exchange.
Really the widest gap here, 2 levels in the mid lane for Dardes, who's been the beneficiary of plenty of focus from Cherio. Knock up over onto Nika, but knocks aside Sanford Soccer and Fine OK. Cherio was on blue buff, now finds his way over into the solo lane. Are they going to get away again? Fine OK might trade out his life for it. The Trembles enough to peel. Nika saves his jungler's life a moment ago. Cherio returns the favor here, and this Cthulhu will now get away with 10 HP. No rotations around the backside. It's just Nika left alone. Tier 2 tower, maybe a Tier 1 tower dive here. Sanford Soccer hoping to turn it around. Captain Twig has the ultimate this time. One is pulled back. Cherio down, same for Fine OK.
Yeah, that was a bad decision by Cherio to stand there, but this might be an equally bad decision by Ghost to stick around too long. Rapper
Chaos
is going to get another cleanup kill. Bit of an arena we got going on here in this one, Dave. It feels like people are only going home the hard way. No backing allowed. Maybe it's closer to assault in that sense.
It's, I guess it's faster, right? I mean, you can buy your items quicker. Maybe I get a kill on the back end of it.
But
really,
Dave,
you're not that though.
The big thing is that you don't get the cool backing animations. That's such a big thing these days, is the cool backing animations on a bunch of skins.
True.
You're not getting a chance to see that,
Look good, play good. Backing, I guess, is one way of doing that. Fine OK maintains not equity, but he's at least close to Nika here in the solo lane. 1 level behind. It's 3 levels, though, as I was trying to point out, for some solo lane action that Dardes has really pulled ahead of Captain Twig. Doomorb not yet completed, but a fully stacked Transcendence for Dardes. It is Gold Fury started up and actually slowed down. Sanford Soccer rotates through, trembles down onto Panda Cat, who has enough damage to get rid of Cherio before the rest of the fight rotates through. Sanford Soccer healing from PBM, enough to keep him alive. Panda Cat dropped down the snipes as well, and now River's rebuke from Mike will trap Vote into the back of the pit. The waves crash down over the top of Dardes, and now the chase is on for Vote. Raffer around the backside of the Gold Fury pit. Mike has himself a double, and Raffer has to relegate himself to farming. Ghost Gaming look caught out, but it's quite the opposite.
Man, that's just nuts from Mike. I mean, he saved Sam's life.
Is he good?
Where he is completely dead, no matter what. and then goes, oh, look at this. 2 people perfectly lined up for my Rivers Rebuke. Don't mind if I do, gentlemen, and just locks them both in, gets both kills for himself, and in Mike's own famous words, his wall, his kills, man. He earned those.
He did, and then some. And now, you know, what was a 3-level lead from the mid lane, look at how things have shifted here. Captain Twig has caught up to the tune of now just a 1-level differential. The Hebo, despite a 1-4-3 scoreline, is at least staying somewhat close to Dardes there on the Cupid. A big swing in this one for Ghost Gaming, not only denying the Gold Fury, but picking up a few kills there on their own. A 2-level lead for Panda Cat. Really, it's Nika here that's left for SSG, and then, of course, Dardes with that 1-level lead. From what we've seen, all of that proactivity, that it boils down to a 1-level lead in solo and now 2-level lead in mid. Could get a little bit more separated as Panda Cat will receive a Sam gank, and down he goes for the 3rd time this game.
Now, not ideal for Sam that he has to use the beads in that situation. It means that Cherry's going to be hunting him for sure. But at the end of the day, you still keep Vote down on this left-hand side. And as you mentioned, Panda is a legitimate win condition for Ghost with the position that he's in to carry this game. He is level 16 on this ROM. It's already gotten those chin size as well.
PBM a little off the mark with the Rivers Rebuke this time around, but Vote still 5 seconds left from respawning. Maybe caters to Ghost Gaming, looking towards this Gold Fury. Thinking twice about it, they'll back themselves off. 4 ultimates ready to go for Space Station. Enough of a threat for Ghost to think twice. Aggro's this time in game number 1, where we're looking at a Fire Giant being locked down by Ghost Gaming. SSG, again, have done a good job of slowing down the pace. The question is it enough, though? You start to look at Ghost Gaming, the ability they've had to swing back into this one, and really the recipient of all the pressure, again, has been Captain Twig, but he's been able to catch back up.
Yeah, he's in a pretty decent spot, though maybe not literally on the map, because Cherry's going to lock him in and force out that ultimate. And now Twig is in between a whole lot of members of Spacestation Gaming. Yeah, that is on us, actually, when you think about it. And that's exactly what SSG needed, because now they've got a window of opportunity. I do think that Cthulhu is going to bring more to the 5-on-5s than Cullen will. So I think Space Station's still at a pretty good spot to come out on top as long as they can team fight effectively moving forward.
We might see that here. Gold Fury started up, Panda Cat standing on a ward, so SSG know exactly where this ROM will be coming from. Could use the ultimate to try to steal that away. That's exactly what he has in mind. PBM, fine, okay, big knock up there from the Cullen, but Raffer sends a bunch of smaller ones fine okay's way. Rivers Rebuke will separate this fight. 3-man knock up returned from Nika, but that zone's so large, not quite a story to write home about when you're piloting Cthulhu. Enough of a presence, though, from Ghost Gaming to back SSG off.
And a really good wall from Mike right there in order to keep that Cthulhu from surging forward. He's big, but he doesn't go over walls, and so that Rivers Rebuke can cause some awkward situations for Nika in these team fights, and that's exactly what Mike was able to do there. Ghost still, I think, does need to be able to show that they can win these team fights by killing this Cthulhu effectively, quickly, between the Sunder and the Nemesis ult. And that hasn't really happened quite yet. Now Twig is getting to the point where he can actually deal some of that damage. Doom Orb into Spear the Magus means that now he's got the flat pen in order to do so. And it all comes together for the team composition. If that Magus proc goes onto the Cthulhu alongside a Nemalt and alongside a Yamoja Sunder, that guy's dying. Between all that increased damage, he's losing protections. He's getting increased damage from all sources in 2 different areas, from the Magus and from the Sunder. So I think that as unkillable as Cthulhu feels, Ghost has itemized to try and make him as squishy as possible.
We're gonna have to see how hard Nika is to kill here. PBM drops down the ultimate, but Nika, the ultimate CC onto PBM is death. 4-man tremble, but of course Ghost won't be able to follow up. Fine, okay, rotating over from the mid lane here. Is just going to get that wave pushing in. Captain Twig drops down some good damage here. Gold Fury, half HP. It's really just one that's left on it. Fine, okay, has rotated in from behind, but Cherio locks him in. Vote up and over. Aegis down, and Sanford Soccer has plenty of damage. Look at this, 2v4 for Ghost Gaming underneath the Tier 1 tower. But now the damage turned around by Nika. Captain Twig has to roll the ultimate away to stay alive. Sanford Soccer right back into the fight. He's looking for kills, and he's got one. Immediately traded out, though, by Nika. Captain Twig, cooldowns not abound this time around. Nika, a double kill as the Gold Fury started back up.
Really, really solid fight from Spacestation. They just juggled those targets really effectively.
They did.
Sam did a ton of work and lived forever, it felt like, in the 1v4 to once Final K was focused down. Spacestation does get the Gold Fury. Panda, without an ultimate, probably can't keep this chase going as long as he would like. That whole fight starts off really well, by the way, because of a great push in from Raffer, really separating Mike from the rest of the squad. He deserves a bunch of credit for how well that fight started.
Well, Mike was looking to keep things going there in the mid lane, unable to do so. We've talked, I think, at a pretty good length about really the mid lane, not necessarily difference, but just the pressure that SSG put into the mid lane, which built a difference as far as golden XP go. That lot, all of that into Dardes, 2-level lead over Captain Twig. That has translated into now a fully stacked Transcendence, Ninja Tabi. And I think an interesting item aggro. Jury's still out, I think, in my brain. The stat stick, I think, is great on it. But this Berserker Shield's something we've started to see a little bit more of coming out of mid lane Hunters.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that when you're playing a mid lane Hunter, that third item is a big point of contention because you're almost always picking a Hunter that wants trans first. And then you're kind of stuck in this awkward position. Do I want something that gives me lifesteal, which would be Aussie? Wow. Do I want something else? Do I want Crusher? I think Berserkers can work in this slot for sure.
Dardes was able to swing out a decent bit of damage there. How many times have we seen Captain Twig have to defensively ult over the last few minutes? Lots of engagements over onto this Hebo, and just now, one more crushing wave sent the opposite direction from the SSG guys. It is the Pyromancer locked down now, so a small gold spike for Spacestation Gaming. Mike thinks he's maybe found an advantage here, but Ghost Gaming maybe disagree. Trembled on the backside. Sanford Soccer rotating through. Final K there as well. 4 members of Spacestation are in. 5 members of Ghost Gaming, though a bit spread out. It looks like Pyromancer, nothing more will come of it.
A little bit awkward there for Mike. He uses the River's Rebuke, but only catches the full health Kuzenbo. Maybe you can actually kill that guy, but fire is going to get pulled in the process. That's going to make it awkward. He even fired off the Sunder. But it's not as big of an investment as it once was, because now Relic Dagger is completed. That is like, what, a 75-second cooldown or something like that. It's pretty short on that Relic at this point. But haven't really seen the Sunder pay off too much, it feels like, for Ghost. Got to see some more value out of it moving forward.
Agreed. Mike had a brilliant sequence, on the double kill, saving the life of his jungler. Haven't seen much spark out of this Emoja since then. Not for a lack of trying. Mike has really been looking for the setup here. Ultimates trying to lock down targets, but SSG have just been too slippery, difficult to lock down for PBM. And one thing I was concerned about, and still, I think the concern is valid, is how Cherio would be impactful on some of these fights. But, the walls, I think the utility that I've seen out of Cherio and the damage on top of it have certainly met their value.
Without a doubt. And no shells at all for Ghost, which is usually so important against Cabrakan because getting those block sacks to 1 is an auto attack. So you block it entirely with an upgraded shell stack. And no shells at all for Ghost, feeling like they need the frenzy there for Mike, I suppose, to really win these 5-on-5s with how tanky the Space Station lineup is. I mean, it's pretty classic when you think about it. The double Hunter, triple Guardian is something that Cherio teams have done since the dawn of time, and so this frenzy is really there to try and get enough damage to punch through these triple Guardians.
Right, I mean, and the shell's surprising, of course, for Cabrakan, and then you talk about the double Hunter, so, not even one. I admit, really does surprise me. It's triple blink beads for Fano, Sam, and Twig down the line there. So I guess that tells the opposite story. They want to be getting into the back line. They want to prevent you from auto-attacking as much as possible. I guess not all that surprising when we consider how Ghost play and really what they look to do. So the aggressive Relic usage, or at least aggressive Relic purchases for Ghost Gaming to start off the game.
Maybe Twig feels like he couldn't have gone shell in that slot because if he gets locked by that Cabrakan anyways, he's just going to die no matter what. So he's going to try and blink Cherry's blink every time. Kind of like that.
Hey, that works out for Captain Twig. Does not work out for Cherio. Fine, okay. We'll pick up the kill here. Ghost Gaming maybe still looking for the chase. Dash away from Nika. Raffer left alone in the back line. PBM had the Riptide placement. Just a bit out of time there as Raffer will escape. Tier 1 tower. A few autos away from crumbling. The question with Ghost, though, is always, you give up this 1 kill, really for SSG for that matter. What are you giving up on the back end of that 1 kill? For the moment, it could be this Fire Giant. Instead, Ghost maybe pivot themselves for a bit of an ambush.
Oh, no.
Knock up on the back line onto Vote. Walls go up from Mike. Crushing Wave gets some good damage in onto Rafford. You gotta burn through this Cthulhu, and they're gonna send Rafford to the grave first. It's a double kill for Panda Cat. He is rampaging now in this game. Captain Twig has found the opening. Not the kill just yet. Blink forward. Aegis from Vote keeps him alive. Right back to the FG for Ghost.
Man, Raffer and Nico were perfectly happy to walk down Yamoja Avenue, as you can basically call that choke point in the jungle. That is easy setup for Mike's Rivers Rebuke. I feel like Spacestation maybe could have played that one a little bit more slowly, but how much damage Rom does to objectives normally has to scare you a whole lot, but Panda's not going the crit build. He's going Pen to try and chew through the triple front line, and that really drastically lowers the damage that you have on objectives. I think Spacestation might not have taken that into account on how long it was going to take Ghost to actually do that Fire Giant. If that's crit ROM, I can understand needing to funnel in and get in there as fast as possible, but against the Pen ROM build, I think that Spacestation could have slow-rolled that a little bit better and made it so that Rivers Rebuke didn't get as much value.
It's interesting as well from SSG. Vote has gone full ability-based as well. Attack speed for Dardes out of the mid lane. Oni Fury taken down now for Ghost Gaming. And you look at the towers that are still left standing, so full 5 with the Fire Giant, 25 minutes in. We've seen this story before. These towers are going to crumble quite quickly, and you look at the gold lead, it stands at 2K right now, 25 minutes in. That will balloon here depending on where Ghost put that advantage.
And so far, the story has really been Panda Cat on this ROM, just really controlling these team fights in a really, really impressive manner. He's staying really far back. It is difficult to space when you're a hunter against a triple guardian composition, because normally they just get to kind of walk at you for free, and there's not a whole lot that you can do about it. I love the way that Panda's positioned in this game, and it's also a testament, of course, to the front line of Ghost. It's like every good running back has to have a good offensive line. It just doesn't work the other way around. But
what's that?
Panda is certainly, you know, he's no slouch once he gets the ball. You know, he's doing some Barry Sanders stuff right now.
You're going to have to explain to me what a good offensive line is, I think, Aggro.
Okay, imagine if Joe Burrow didn't have to make a snap decision every time he gets the ball. That's what a good offensive line is.
Couldn't be me. Couldn't imagine it.
Yeah,
we'll have to see if that's able to happen at any point this year. And SSG are going to need to make some snap decisions. Thinking about Bengals with an offensive line has gotten me all flustered here. It's totally out of this world. Ghost Gaming push in both towers over in the long lane. Mid lane tower will fall as such as well. Once again, this game is simplified. SSG left back on these Phoenix defenses, but Aggro, the lead isn't as dire, nearly as dire as it was in game number 1, but is that composition for SSG, XP, gold differences aside, one that gives you some confidence underneath the birds?
It's a little bit awkward because you don't have fantastic wave clear. Uller is pretty good at wave clear in a vacuum, but he needs to step up to the wave to be able to hit the whole thing with the bladed arrow, and that's just really not a viable option.
Yeah, I'm thinking this fight's going to happen under the Phoenix, but instead it's maybe this tier 2 tower. Frenzy used by PBM this time around, Sunder as well on the front end of it. Panda Cat drops down the ultimate. 1 minute left on this Fire Giant buff. You get kind of the feeling that this was ultimately Ghost's goal, really, with this first Fire Giant. Let's just clear out all of the towers. We feel confident enough in our next team fight around this Fire Giant that we get it once more, and then maybe we start to look towards those Phoenixes on that side. Spacestation Gaming, not out of this one yet, but the early advantages we saw from them, the engagements, the blink forwards from Cherio, Nika still in a good spot, 3-1 and 2 on this Cthulhu. It really seems like it's Ghost as of late that is punching forward. SSG playing a little bit reactionary.
And that ult from Mike on the tier 2 was close to being game winning right there, but both Raffer and Nika, and I think Cherry were the 3 that were almost caught there. They were, taking a picture at prom, suck it in order to get the squeeze through that little tiny Yamoja ultimate opening, and boy was it close. I think that could have just outright ended the game right there for Ghost. But SSG do the right thing. They bait some sort of cooldown in case they are able to take a fight while those are down. They aren't going to, but it's better than making them not use it, I suppose. and set themselves up for a fire defense that they're going to need to make. And even though the gold lead is pretty big right now at 8K, we're late enough, I mean 29 minutes, that it isn't as backbreaking as a lot of other gold leads would be in this spot. Because just look at the itemization. Sure, there will be a power pot or two for Ghost Gaming. I'll bet you Sam has one. I'll bet you Panda has one. But overall, Space Station's pretty close in itemization because you look at Nika, full build. Dardes, pretty close to full build. It's pretty important that he doesn't have Atalantas in that slot, but at least he's got something there. It's not like he's down a full item to his counterpart. So it's a lead for Ghost, but it's not a commanding one at this point. Space Station can still win this fight for sure.
And Captain Twig is at full build with a Bulwark as his final item there. Maybe worth a look there, Aggro. The Bulwark of Hope rounding out the build for Captain Twig.
I mean, it's magic defense against triple Guardian. Normally, Guardians are able to kill you with exact, like they have exactsies every time. They're not overkilling you a whole lot. With Bulwark of Hope, you basically add in a whole bunch of extra damage that they have to be able to chew through in order to knock you down. Not necessarily the best magic defense item in the whole world, but it's a magic defense item with some HP. It's not bad. Yeah, it is one, exactly.
Well, now the dance commences for Ghost Gaming. They are the ones pushing into SSG side of the jungle. Just now, FG transforms into the enhanced variety. Frenzy pop, Reverse Rebuke up. Nika, goodbye to your health bar. Dardes drops down. The Fields of Love. Captain Twig trapped in the back of a Tremble. Great wall from Cherio. He's controlling 3 members of Ghost Gaming, but the rest of SSG being controlled by Final K and Mike on the back line of the fight. Dardes has poured enough damage into Mike to send him back to base for the next minute. 2-for-2 trade, and it's Ghost Gaming less healthy than SSG.
Man, just so much. A perfect example of how frontline and backline have to work together in these team fights on different tasks, basically. Right there, Cherry, Nika, and Raffer are somehow able to salvage a fight where Nika never even got to press his ult button because he got nem-ulted and sundered and frenzied by Mike. With Rom ults coming down, by the way, on top of him. They dumped everything into killing this Cthulhu, and they did it. But Cherry gets enough damage off, and I don't know what happened to Twig's knockup. I don't know if it was on cooldown that entire duration, but he was never able to interrupt the channel from Cherio. I think that he might have been able to put in some serious work in this fight otherwise, but credit to Cherry and to Raffer for really doing a 3-person job with just 2 people. And then Dardes and Vote do enough to keep Fine and Sam locked in an awkward spot as well. Those 2 backliners who peel via damage more than anything else are able to win their little battle as well and make sure that they're able to kill Mike on top of it. So that was a pretty close fight. And at the end of the day, both teams looking pretty well equipped to go right back at it. I mean, only beads down for mid laners right now.
Back at it they will go. It is Cherio who moves forward, finds the stun, down onto Final K. PBM trying to save his solo laner. And maybe it's SSG that should be afraid as Sanford Soccer has found his way into the backline. Dardes, goodbye. Vote knocks down one as well. PBM snags the kill over onto Cherio. Nika pouring down damage, but his ultimate has timed out. And Panda Cat has plenty of damage still. Has to use the Aegis to stay alive. Vote has found a kill and leapt away from Fino K. But the up down from Fino stunned out now by Vote. The chase may be on. Looks like it has timed out 3-for-2 this time, so a small win for Ghost.
Feel like this should be a win for Ghost and that they should be able to pull fire in this spot. Panda's just going to lifesteal a little bit, but I don't even think he really needed to because Mike's got his back on the healing. No ward coverage here for Ghost, so this is a little bit awkward that Space Station knows the exact HP. Raffer could come in with ult and Thorns. He's going to make life very annoying for Panda Cat.
Yeah, not quite as fast as Ghost Gaming we're maybe hoping here. Panda Cat does plenty of damage, but not enough to prevent Raffer from moving in. Instead, maybe the easier objective in the Pyromancer is going to get started up, but that is still somewhat slow. Really is just down to Raffer maybe stealing this one away. Vote has rejoined the fray as well. Damage being turned around in onto Panda Cat. Vote looked at by Fine OK. Ultimates ring down from Panda. Onto Vote, half HP now on the Uller. Pyromancer not completely reset here. And outside of a Nene steal, which we won't have, Ghost Gaming are able to take the Pyro.
really, really smart work by Ghost, just playing it nice and slow, but Panda using that ultimate really late in that team fight is certainly noteworthy for Space Station, and I'm sure they know about it. They're not going to let that one go unpunished, I don't think. So Panda now has no survivability in the kit, with between his relics both being down and that ultimate. Check out what he sold his boots for, by the way. Shogun's Kasari for the ROM. More magical defense for him on this backline as Sam one hit away. That was spooky. That's not ideal because now Sam has to reset.
Look at this.
And Space Station are going to have a lot more time than they thought on this fire.
That's right. They're wondering where Sam is. Extra cautious. Cherio, look at him poking around the right-hand side of Sam here. No, he's not. He's coming back from base. Instead, Cherio, that's actually caught him out a little bit. Captain Twig helps out PBM in finishing off the SSG jungler. Nika moves his way in onto Panda Cat. Vote, what are you doing up front there? Sanford Soccer thanks him very much. Panda Cat will get rid of Nika here. Now it's Rapper. Thorns bringing true the damage, but the ultimate won't be enough. It's a double kill from Panda. Ghost Gaming, the biggest fight of the game so far. They ignore the FG and turn their eyes towards the waves.
And Dardaz kind of looking like John Travolta, like looking for his team. What happened, fellas? I've got everything up. He's got relics ready to go, but just a different style there for Ghost. As Dardaz has to look no longer. He found the entirety of Ghost Gaming. Ghost switch it up. Instead of going for dumping everything into Nika, they just go, well, Nika's kind of not that big of a deal if we just take Cherry, which is all of the magic damage, out of the equation really early. They dump everything into Cherio, and then Vote's positioning as well kind of gifts Ghost an easy team fight.
Yeah, that is wild, Aggro. This one, it felt, at least in this game, much more back and forth, a lot closer than Game 1 was, but it felt like we were headed towards this big crescendoing fight back and forth till the end, and Ghost Gaming just kind of roll over the members of SSG that were a touch out of position there in that fight. Ghost continue to separate themselves from the rest of the league, whether it is play style-wise, and now literally on the standings, they're going to be one win ahead, still undefeated here. Ghost look near infallible.
Yeah, they look fantastic. I mean, Space Station certainly turned it around. I thought Space Station had a great draft in game number 2. I really liked the way that their draft played out. Ultimately, if you're just one step out of position, Ghost is going to pick you apart really quickly, and that's really what ultimately happened at the very end.
A toe over the line from SSG. Ghost, they roll today, 22 minutes, and then just a little bit longer here in Game 2. That one thanks to SSG bringing it. But Ghost Gaming, nonetheless, they complete the 2-0 over SSG. They remain undefeated. That is it for Aggro and I on this set. Finch, it's all yours.
Thanks, Dolson. A legendary battle there between Ghost and Space Station, and a legendary crossover between SMITE and the world of Avatar. Pick up the new Battle Pass right now. You unlock Zuko Susano instantly when you purchase the Premium Pass. Then you can pick up Korra, Scotty, Aang, Merlin, and more as you progress through all of those levels. Make sure that you get to enjoy the best of really two of my favorite things in the whole world, Avatar and SMITE. Make sure that you are a part of it. And now, Mifflin, you and I think, have the difficult task of trying to break down exactly where things went wrong for Space Station here in this game, because this was obviously much improved for them from what we saw in Game 1, a much closer matchup, but still, I think that the strategy of isolating and blowing up the Cthulhu quickly was still present in this game.
It still certainly worked, and I think they just kind of shifted the goalposts a little bit, Ghost that is. Well, you know, we don't have all those exact same tools, but maybe your Mojo ult can separate a team fight, put one person out of position, usually the Cthulhu. In the last engagement, it was going to be Cherry on the Kabrakan. You can't let PBM have that god, man. He was so absolutely dominant on it. I mean, he's able to save his teammates. He's going to do exactly this right here. I mean, he's the best. He's just the absolute best.
He is, man, and seconds before this, he saved Sam for Soccer's life from a heart bomb with a heal. Then he gets the double kill on this emoji. I mean, he just got through doing it to you with a Geb last game. So now he gets to upgrade to the best support in the game with Yamoja and continues to do it. And then what about Panda Cat stepping up for them as well in this game when they really needed that backline damage this time because Twig was struggling a bit and Sam couldn't always get in there. But Panda Cat was able to get online with this build, find the priority targets, and absolutely shred Space Station.
And this is Panda Cat without scrims. This is Panda Cat rusty. Right. My man wasn't practicing.
Not even on his normal
good
setup.
Luck. Yeah, dude, my man's playing at a friend's house on a different PC with a new mouse, like, and he's still popping off like that. It's absolutely insane. But we can't shade Space Station too hard. They came in with a very unique strategy to Game 2, the old Space Station Classic, Triple Guardian, Double Hunter, and it looked like it was going to work out. It's just Cherio was a little bit too squishy with that build, wasn't quite able to survive some of the damage. Polar Bear Mike was doing a fantastic job splitting up these engagements with his ultimate, not allowing Space Station to really fight any true 5-on-5 engagements. Nika, a lot of the time, was separated instantly, wasn't even able to channel the ultimate, and died before that. And Hindu, man, the crispiest memes.
That's my boss, by the way, everybody out there. I report to that man, so I tell you, don't get any easier. Mifflin, you've been learning the ropes here so far. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's not the easiest thing trying to go up against Ghost either. I think at this point, having beaten Space Station, we could pretty confidently say they're the top team here at this point now, Miff, with that undefeated record. I mean, obviously, Radiant's still undefeated too, but when you factor in that Ghost were the playoff Phase 1 champs, I think that all kind of leans their way. Space Station, though, still not struggling. One loss to Ghost. I don't think that's alarm bells or anything. You're doing fine still.
No, Space Station is the team that's going to coast at the top. And I use that word on purpose. They're going to coast at the top until Worlds rolls around, and then they're really going to put the pedal to the metal. I think we haven't seen the last of Space Station for sure. Radiant's obviously going to be an incredibly strong team. I'll be excited to see whether or not they're able to match up into Ghost Gaming. I'm not quite willing to give Ghost that #1 seed in my mind just yet. I got to hold on to hope that maybe someone can challenge them.
I'm glad someone is not directly rushing to giving them all the accolades, because I know that I am, and I've been in particular very positive towards Mike, who's looked excellent this phase. But you don't have to worry just about what I think about Mike. PBM himself is standing by for the interview after that win.
And how could he not be? Mike, he's crushing deadlifts in the gym and then crushes his opponents on the battleground week in, week out. Nothing stops this guy. Mike, 22 minutes in game number 1. First off, I mean, that obliteration, really, and kind of regardless of opponent, 22 minutes is a ridiculously fast game on the SPL. First off, did you guys expect that? I mean, did you expect maybe a little bit closer there in game 1 at least?
We were actually kind of joking about it in our comms. We were like, dude, we lost. They have such an OP draft. Like, we're screwed. And we just, you kind of tend to pick the Geb and you just run it down a little bit and see what happens. And, it's a great way to stay in shape.
It's a fantastic way to stay in shape.
Yep.
Talk to me about that Geb pick, though, because, admittedly, in the picks and bans, the guys were like, well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily scream PVM. You love this early aggression, getting the ball rolling. Literally got the ball rolling, nonetheless, with this Geb. Lots of pressure over in the right lane. Is he now this new meta aggressive support? At least you can make him work in that way.
You took away my bad joke, man. I was going to say the rolling thing. No, I mean, I'm just getting in there no matter what I pick. I just think Geb was a good pick into their draft. And yeah, I just think that we were able to make proactive plays with it. And anytime we're in that spot, we're definitely going to look for him.
Well, and a lot of your game plan really in this set seemed to be around this Cthulhu. It has to be. I mean, the pressure from that solo lane, near unmatched. But you guys let him through nonetheless, despite the Amaterasu not being picked up on the other side. Don't have to give away too much if you don't want to, but what's kind of the strategy you guys brought in here in dealing with that Cthulhu?
I think he's really good. I just think that you have to be coordinated as a team. Anytime, like especially in like a ranked game, you'll see a Cthulhu just dive the back line and you can't get him off you and he'll just own everybody. But I think if you're coordinated and you understand how you need to start fights against him, that he's not as oppressive as he may look. So just comfort practicing against him, even though we didn't really get a lot of scrims. We just were confident from previous weeks.
Mike, it is always a pleasure not only to talk to you, but to watch you guys play. Undefeated still here in Phase 2 of the SPL. Sanguine, then Radiance for you guys in your next 2 matchups. So certainly will get put to the test, but we'll let you enjoy the rest of this weekend. Enjoy the win. Thanks for talking to me, and best of luck in your future games.
Thanks, Dave. Have a good one.